This review is going to be graphing an inverse variation. So when graphing an inverse variation, we're talking about a graph that has y equals a single constant number divided by x. Remember in class we talked about going through and making a table of values for these and plotting these points on the graph, knowing where their vertical asymptote is and their horizontal asymptote is. These graphs are always going to be the same as long as they have a number divided by x. So there was a couple of points on here that I told you that you would always get. And those points would be the points 1, 12 and 12, 1. And the negative versions of those. Negative 12, negative 1, and negative 1, negative 12. You will always get those 4 points on these depending on what number is on top of the fraction. So just know that that number would be replaced with whatever number is on top of the fraction. Then I told you to get a couple of other points in the middle between those. Remember, you're asked to get 6 points, so you just have a good picture of what the curve looks like. So with 12 being the number on top, the other points come from the factors of 12. So, for instance, if you divide 12 by 2, you get 6. And you would also get 6, 2. And then you would get the negative versions of those. Negative 6, negative 2, and negative 2, negative 6. And very, very quickly you can have 8 points. You could also have, obviously, 3, 4, and 4, 3. Negative 3, negative 4, and negative 4, negative 3. You could have all of those points to use on your graph. Once you have your points, then you plot them on a graph and then connect your dots and make your curves. But you also have vertical asymptotes and horizontal asymptotes, so we'll talk about those in just a moment once Mr. Harrison gets these lines drawn. So let's go ahead and let's see. I probably didn't give myself enough room here. I probably did. I forget on this grid how small this grid is, but 112 would be up here above the axis, way up here. So we're going to have to do 2 and 6 right here. And then we'll go with 3, 4. I'll throw that one in there. 4, 3. We'll throw that one in there. And then 6, 2. And then let's see if we got room. We should have 12, 1 at least. I did miss my 112 up here. And I'm probably going to have the same issue down here on this one too, just because these graphs on the screen aren't big enough. So I apologize for that. I should have planned that out a little bit better with the number I got on the top. But it's okay. It's not a big deal. So on the other side, we have negative 12, negative 1 is here. Negative 6, negative 2 is here. Negative 4, negative 3 is here. Negative 3, negative 4 is here. And then negative 2, negative 6 is here. And then obviously negative 1, negative 12 is going to be a little bit too far down on the other side there, which is okay. We can handle that being a little bit off. If you're working to that on a test, you just can draw it right off the edge of your graph. It's fine. One thing that we did talk about with these graphs, though, is that these particular graphs, when it's just one number divided by x, are always going to have a vertical asymptote at 0. The reason these have a vertical asymptote here at 0 is because you cannot plug in 0 for the bottom of the fraction. Remember, the bottom of the fraction is where the vertical asymptote comes from, because you cannot divide by 0. These also have a horizontal asymptote at 0. So right across the x-axis, these will always have a horizontal asymptote, because when you are plugging in numbers into the bottom of this fraction, it gets closer and closer and closer to 0 without touching it. And so the degree on the bottom, being bigger than the degree on the top, makes a horizontal asymptote at 0. But what I told you about these is as long as you memorize they're on the axis, all you got to do is get your points, plot your points, know where the asymptotes are, and then draw your graph. So let's do an attempt here at drawing. You know, Mr. Harrison and these curves don't get along too well. So, not a great drawing by Mr. Harrison, but it'll have to do for right now. This side is a little better. But there you go. You have those two branches of your inverse variation.